Welcome to the Strategy Sync YouTube channel. Please subscribe and like to hear new book summaries.
It is great to be back, and honestly, I think we need to brace ourselves for this one.
Oh, absolutely. I was reading through the material for today, and I have to admit, I felt a little bit dirty just holding this book. It has such a reputation, doesn't it?
It really does.
We're talking about The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And this is a book you see, in the hands of hip-hop moguls, ruthless CEOs, and notoriously, it's one of the most requested books in the American prison system.
It certainly has a dark aura around it. It's often described as a manual for the amoral, a guide for the cunning, or even, a toolkit for sociopaths.
Right. Just looking at the table of contents makes you feel like a villain in a Bond movie. Crush your enemy totally, get others to do the work, pose as a friend, work as a spy. I mean, are we supposed to actually apply this stuff, or is this just a study in how terrible human beings can be?
And that is the million-dollar question. But I think dismissing it as just a manual for villains kind of misses the point Greene is trying to make.
Okay.
He's not necessarily telling you to go out and be evil. He's arguing that the world is effectively a giant scheming court. You might be a nice person. You might want to opt out of all the power games. But Greene's argument is that the game is being played around you whether you like it or not.
That was the hook that actually got me to stop rolling my eyes and start paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Greene has this core thesis that we're all sort of pretending. We claim we want a fair, democratic, honest world where everyone is equal and nice. But deep down,
we are all power hungry. We all want control over our circumstances, over our lives.
And if you deny that.
Precisely. If you deny that, you become what Greene calls a non-player.
The non-player. These are the people who say, oh, I hate office politics. I just want to do my job.
Exactly. They flaunt their moral superiority. They demand total equality in every single interaction. But Greene warns us specifically about these people. He argues that if you look closely, the so-called non-players are often the most skilled manipulators of all.
How so?
They use their moral purity as a weapon. They can guilt trip you. They play the victim. They use their refusal to play the game as a way to, control the game.
That is devastatingly accurate. I think we all know that person who claims they hate trauma but is somehow always at the center of it, kind of directing traffic from the sidelines.
So our mission for this deep dive is to try and strip away the moral judgment. We are not endorsing being a sociopath. We're not telling you to go out and destroy your coworkers.
Right.
But we are going to look at the mechanics of how power actually works, viewing these power dynamics simply as events and circumstances. The goal is that by understanding these laws, you can either play the game a little better or, at the very least, stop yourself from being played by someone else.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's unpack this. The book is huge, obviously, 48 laws, but we've distilled it down to the absolute essentials. Starting with a section we're calling the Golden Rules of the Courtier. This is basically how to keep your job and not get destroyed by the people above you.
And we have to start with the most famous law in the entire book, Law 1. Never outshine the master.
This one bugs me, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
It feels so counterintuitive. We're raised to work hard, show off our talents, impress the boss. If I'm the smartest person in the room, shouldn't I show it? Isn't that how I get promoted?
You would think so. Logically, it makes perfect sense. But Greene argues that you're forgetting the fundamental human element, insecurity. If you show off your talents too much, you don't inspire favor, you inspire fear. Fear. Feel that you are coming for their spot. The person above you, your master, wants to feel secure in their position. They want to feel like they're the genius, the one in charge. If you appear smarter or more charming or more competent than they are, you become a threat.
And Greene has a perfect and a kind of tragic historical story to illustrate this. The story of Nicolas Fouquet.
Yes. I mean, this is the cautionary tale to end all cautionary tales.
I'd never heard this story before reading the book, but it is wild. Can you set the scene for us?
Okay, so we are in 17th century France. Louis XIV is the king, the young Sun King. Nicolas Fouquet is his finance minister. And he's a brilliant man. He's generous, loves the arts, loves women, just loves life.
He's the guy you want at your party.
Absolutely. So the prime minister dies, and Fouquet expects to take his place. But he senses the king is kind of wavering. He thinks maybe the king thinks he's falling out of favor.
So he decides to win the king back.
Exactly. And he decides to do it by throwing the most spectacular, over-the-top party the world has ever seen.
This wasn't just a dinner, right? This was an event.
An event doesn't even cover it. This was at his brand new private chateau, Vaux-le-Vicomte. He invited the entire court, the king, everyone.
I read some of the details on this. It just sounds insane. It wasn't just, chips and dips.
Far from it. We're talking about a 7-course banquet featuring foods from the Orient that nobody in France had ever even tasted before. He commissioned Molière, the greatest playwright of the era, to write and debut a play just for that evening. He had fireworks that were so bright, people who were there wrote that it looked like daytime. He built fountains specifically for the event. And in his mind, he's thinking, look at all this. The king will see my connections, my taste, my loyalty, and he'll realize I'm indispensable.
He's trying to show off for the king. Look what I can do for you, sire.
That was his intent. But that is not what Louis XIV saw. You have to remember, Louis XIV was a young king, a little insecure, and he's looking at this dazzling display of wealth and charm, and he doesn't see a loyal servant.
He sees a rival.
He sees a man who was wealthier, more popular, and more charming than the king himself. He thought, this man is dangerous. He outshines me.
And the reaction wasn't just, a slap on the wrist.
No. The king was so humiliated that he wanted to arrest Fouquet right there at the party. His mother actually had to talk him out of it. But the very next day, Fouquet was arrested by the head musketeer, D'Artagnan.
Wait, the D'Artagnan from the movies.
The very same, the real guy. Fouquet was charged with embezzlement charges that the king largely fabricated, and he spent the next 20 years in solitary confinement until he died.
Wow. From throwing the best party ever to a stone cell, all because he tried too hard to impress his boss.
And here is the kicker, just to show you how much of this was about pure ego. After arresting Fouquet, Louis XIV took Fouquet's architects, his gardeners, and his artists, and he ordered them to build a new palace that would outdo Fouquet's chateau.
No way.
That palace became Versailles.
So the Palace of Versailles was basically built out of spite.
It was built to ensure that no one would ever outshine the master again.
Okay, so that's terrifying. If Fouquet failed by shining too bright, who actually got this right? Because I, for one, do not want to end up in solitary confinement.
Greene points to Galileo Galilei. Now, Galileo was a genius, obviously. He needed funding for his research, and he depended on the powerful Medici family in Florence.
Right.
The Medicis were powerful, but like a lot of powerful people, they were also desperate for legacy. So when Galileo discovered the 4 moons of Jupiter with his new telescope, he had a choice. He could have just published the paper and taken all the credit.
Look at what I found. Aren't I smart?
Exactly. But instead, he turned it into a tribute, a brilliant tribute. He named the moons the Medicean stars. He wrote this dedication saying that just as the moons orbit Jupiter, the Medici's fame orbits the world, written into the very cosmos itself. He even commissioned an emblem for them representing the moons.
He didn't just impress his patrons. He made them look like they were part of the heavens.
He made them look like gods. He didn't dim his own light. He was still the guy with the telescope who made the discovery, but he positioned his light so that it reflected off the master. He made the Medicis appear more brilliant than they actually were, and in return,
He got paid.
they made him their official court mathematician and philosopher, fully funded for life.
So bringing this to the modern day, because hopefully we aren't naming moons after our managers, what does this look like in an office setting?
It means managing your own ego. If you have a great idea that saves the company $1 million, you have to be so careful how you present it. If you walk in and present it as, I fixed the mess that you guys made, you're Fouquet, you're done.
You're outshining the master.
But if you present it as, I was inspired by your vision for efficiency and I found a way to implement what you've been talking about all along, you're Galileo. You're validating their intelligence while proving your own competence.
It feels a little sycophantic, though, doesn't it? A bit like kissing up.
It is strategy, and you have to decide what your goal is. Do you want to be right and maybe unemployed, or do you want to be effective and, well, powerful?
Fair point. Okay, let's look at another one of these defensive strategies, and this one hits really close to home for me. Law 4. Always say less than necessary.
This is a tough one for a lot of people.
I'm a talker. I hate awkward silences. If there's a pause in a conversation, I just feel this physical need to fill it. I feel like if I talk more, I'm explaining myself better, I'm being open. Greene says that is a rookie mistake.
A huge one. Greene argues that the more you say, the more common you appear, and the higher the chance you'll say something foolish. But more importantly than that, silence is a weapon of power.
How so?
Because silence makes other people deeply uncomfortable. We're social animals. We crave feedback. When you say something to your boss or a client and they just stare at you or give a very brief one-word answer, what do?
I panic. I start rambling. I try to qualify what I just said. Oh, I mean, we could do it another way, or maybe I meant.
Exactly. You start revealing information you shouldn't. You start negotiating against yourself.
Yeah.
Powerful people use silence to make others reveal their hand. Greene calls it being sphinx-like.
He uses the example of Coriolanus, the Roman hero, who apparently just could not shut up.
Oh, Coriolanus was a legendary warrior. I mean, he saved Rome from invasion. He should have been a shoo-in for political office. But he was arrogant, and he felt the need to tell everyone about it constantly.
He wasn't subtle.
Not at all. He would hold these rallies and just boast about his battlefield exploits, showing off his scars, talking on and on.
He thought he was impressing them.
He thought he was proving his worth. But the citizens didn't see a hero. They saw a braggart. They felt belittled by him. And he talked so much that he eventually said things that insulted the common people. He annoyed them to the point that they banished him from the very city he saved.
He literally talked his way out of power.
Completely.
So in a meeting, the person talking the most isn't necessarily the person in charge.
Rarely. The person in charge often sits back, listens, observes, and speaks only when absolutely necessary. And because it's rare, when they do speak, it carries so much more weight.
I'm going to try that. Just scare people until they get nervous.
Use it carefully. You don't want to come off as creepy.
Noted. Okay, let's shift gears. We've talked about defense. Now let's talk about offense. This is section 2, allies and enemies. And we have to start with law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies.
This is one of the darkest, most cynical laws in the book, but Greene argues it's absolutely vital.
It just sounds horrible. Never trust friends. I mean, I want to work with my friends. It's fun. We have a shorthand. Why is Greene so against it?
Because he believes friendship blinds you. When you hire a friend, you might look past their incompetence just because you like them. But worse, friendship is based on emotion, not on utility. Greene argues that if you hire a friend, you are essentially doing them a favor. And strangely, that creates resentment.
Resentment. But I gave them a job. That's a good thing.
But now they are your subordinate. That changes the dynamic entirely. They effectively become spoiled and tyrannical, as Greene puts it. They expect special treatment. They feel entitled. And deep down, there's a little part of them that might be envious that you're the boss and they're the employee.
There's that quote from Voltaire he uses. Lord, protect me from my friends. I can take care of my enemies.
It cuts deep because it's so often true. Greene contrasts this with the surprising value of an enemy. He tells the story of Michael III of the Byzantine Empire. This is just a classic tragedy of friendship.
Okay.
Michael III met a man named Basilius, who was a lowly horse trainer, just a guy working in the stables. Michael took a liking to him.
He sort of pulled a My Fair Lady on him.
He did. He gave Basilius money, titles, made him the head of the stables, eventually gave him high positions in the court. He treated him like a brother, brought him into the inner circle. Michael thought, this man owes me everything. He will be loyal forever.
But gratitude is a heavy burden, isn't it?
It is the heaviest burden. People hate feeling indebted. It makes them feel inferior. Basilius didn't love Michael for the help. He grew to hate him because Michael was a constant walking reminder of his own humble origins.
And what happened?
Basilius eventually plotted against Michael, murdered him in his bed, and took the throne for himself.
The horse trainer became the emperor by killing his benefactor. That is cold.
So Greene suggests a radical alternative, hire an enemy, or at least a former rival.
Why? That sounds like inviting a snake into your bed.
Because a former enemy has something to prove. If you defeat someone and then you bring them into your fold, they are on thin ice. They know you are watching them. They will work harder than any friend to prove their loyalty. Their position relies on their competence, not on your affection.
Lincoln did this, right? The team of rivals.
Exactly. He filled his cabinet with people who hated him or ran against him for president, and they became one of the most effective cabinets in American history.
So hire on competence, not friendship. And if you don't have any enemies...
Greene suggests you might need to make some. Enemies define you. They give you a sharp focus. A leader without a clear adversary often looks weak or directionless. You need a dragon to slay to look like a hero.
Speaking of dragons, Law 15. Crush your enemy. Totally.
This is the law of no half measures.
This is the one that really made me squirm. It sounds like something a warlord would say. Crush them totally. Are we really applying this to, business? You can't just annihilate a competitor in the accounting department.
Well, let's look at the principle behind it. The idea is that if you enter into a conflict, you cannot stop halfway. If you injure an animal, it becomes more dangerous, not less. It becomes desperate. Greene uses the huge historical example of Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong in China.
Okay, walk us through this.
So in the 1930s, Chiang Kai-shek and his nationalists had the communists on the run. They had them completely circled. Mao's forces were ragged, starving, and vastly outnumbered. Chiang had the chance to wipe them out, to end it right there.
But he hesitated.
He hesitated. He made a deal. He allowed them to escape into the mountains. This became the famous Long March. He thought, they're beaten, they're wandering off into the wilderness, they're no longer a threat to me. I can focus on other things.
He left an ember burning.
And that ember sparked a fire that eventually consumed the entire country. The communists regrouped, they rebuilt their strength in the mountains, they learned from their mistakes, and years later they came back and swept Chiang Kai-shek out of mainland China entirely.
So the lesson is, a wounded enemy is the most dangerous kind of enemy.
Exactly. They harbor resentment, they brood on revenge, they have nothing left to lose. In a modern context, this doesn't mean physical violence, of course, but think about a negotiation or a lawsuit. If you have the upper hand and you decide to be nice and leave the other side a little loophole, or you don't secure the contract tightly enough because you feel bad,
They will come back and sue you later, or find a way to get back at you.
or they will undermine you at every turn. Greene argues that mercy is a luxury a powerful person cannot afford in the heat of battle. If you are going to strike, you must strike to remove their capacity to fight back.
It's ruthless. But I guess if you're playing for keeps, it makes a terrible kind of sense.
Let's move to Section 3, the arts of deception and manipulation. This is where the book gets really fun, in a Game of Thrones sort of way.
Oh, yeah.
Law 3, conceal your intentions.
The premise here is that honesty is a blunt instrument. We're taught to be transparent. Here is what I want. Here is my goal. Greene says that is absolute suicide. If you tell people exactly what you want, you just gave them the roadmap to block you.
You want to keep people off balance.
Constantly. If they don't know what you are really up to, they can't prepare a defense. Greene talks about using red herrings. These are fake goals you put out there to distract people from your real objective.
The example of Ninon de l'Enclos is perfect here. She was this famous 17th century courtesan, but she was more like a psychologist, an expert in the arts of love and seduction.
Yeah.
And she was advising this young marquis who was trying to seduce a very proper countess. And the poor marquis. He was completely hopeless. He was totally in love with this countess, and he did what most guys do. He followed her around like a puppy. He told her he loved her. He stared at her with these big, sad eyes.
He was too available. He was showing all his cards.
He was boring. The countess knew exactly what he wanted, so she held all the power. She could just toy with him forever. Ninon told him to stop immediately. She told him to conceal his intentions.
So what did she make him do?
She told him to pretend to be interested in the countess's best friend instead, to start flirting with other women at court, to show up at parties and act indifferent to the countess, just treating her like a buddy.
He was confusing the citadel before the attack.
Exactly. And suddenly the countess is totally confused. Wait, why isn't he looking at me anymore? Does he like her? Is she prettier than I am? She became curious, then she became jealous, and finally, she was the one chasing him to get his attention back.
That is classic dating strategy. Treat them mean, keep them keen.
It's manipulation, plain and simple. But it works because it creates mystery and desire. On a much grander political level, you have someone like Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Germany.
He was a master of this on a huge stage.
Bismarck was incredible at this. He would frequently and publicly express support for a policy that he actually intended to destroy. He'd give speeches saying, yes, I agree with this, it's a fine idea, just to lull the opposition into a false sense of security.
Do they lower their guard?
They'd think, oh, Bismarck is on our side on this one. They'd relax. Then, once they were committed and it was too late to back out, he would find a way to undermine the implementation or twist it to his own ends.
It's all about creating a smokescreen. If people think you're going east, you can march west without any resistance.
Precisely.
Now, Law 7 is one that I think happens in every corporate office in the world, and it just makes my blood boil. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Ah, yes, the vulture method. Greene is very, very blunt about this. He says there are two types of people in the world. The hunter and the vulture. The hunter does the hard work, the heavy lifting, the sweating. The vulture waits and swoops in to feed on what the hunter has killed.
And he says, we should be the vulture. That sounds terrible.
He says the vulture wins. The classic example he uses is the rivalry between Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla.
Oh, the internet loves Tesla.
Yeah.
He's the patron saint of all misunderstood geniuses.
And for very good reason. Tesla was the hunter. The man was a true visionary. He invented AC power. He understood radio waves before almost anyone. He was working on things we are just now beginning to understand. But he was a terrible businessman. He just wanted to do the work. He wanted to solve the puzzle.
And Edison?
Edison was a businessman first, an inventor second. He wasn't the pure inventive genius that Tesla was, not by a long shot, but he knew how to take Tesla's brilliant work, package it, patent it, and bring it to the market. He capitalized on the sweat labor of Tesla.
Didn't Tesla work for Edison for a while?
He did. He was hired to improve Edison's inefficient dynamos. Edison promised him a huge bonus, $50,000, which was an absolute fortune back then.
And when Tesla finished the work, he made the improvements.
Edison just laughed in his face and said, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." He never paid him a cent.
That is so sleazy. It's infuriating.
It is. But who is the household name? Who built General Electric? History remembers Edison as the great inventor because the world rewards the result, not the effort. Greene's argument is that to be powerful, you must preserve your energy. If you can get someone else to do the legwork while you swoop in and direct the final outcome, you appear godlike. You appear efficient. If you do everything yourself, you just look exhausted and common.
I see this all the time. The manager who aggregates the team's work, puts a nice cover sheet on it, presents it to the CEO, and gets the promotion, while the team is back at their desks working late.
That is Law 7 in action. If you want power, you have to stop focusing on being the one who did the work and start focusing on being the one who delivered the work.
Oof. Okay, Law 13. Appeal to self-interest, never to mercy. This feels like a huge mistake people make when they're asking for favors.
It's our first instinct, isn't it? When we are in trouble, we cry out for help. We say, "Hey, remember when I helped you move house last year? You owe me one." Or, "Please help me. I'm in a tough spot. Have some compassion."
We appeal to gratitude or pity.
And Greene says that powerful people do not care about the past. They care about the future. Gratitude is actually a burden to them. It's annoying to be reminded of a debt. It makes them want to avoid you.
The story of Castruccio Castracani really drives this one home. He was a ruthless Italian lord, right?
Yes, a very tough character in the 14th century. He rose to power with the help of the Poggio family. The Poggios were a powerful clan, and they backed him, helped him get to the top. But once Castruccio was in power, he started ignoring them. He had other priorities.
The Poggios got upset.
They felt betrayed, and rightly so. So they staged a protest. They came to him as a group and reminded him of everything they did for him. "We made you. You owe us." They thought their past good deeds would save them.
They thought he would be grateful.
Instead, Castruccio saw them as a nuisance. He saw them as a liability people who felt they had a hold over him. So what did he do? He had them all arrested and killed.
Yikes. Just like that.
He didn't care about what they did do. He only cared that they were now in his way. He only responded to power and future utility, not to debts of the past.
So the lesson is, when you ask for help, do not talk about the past. You have to talk about how helping you will benefit them in the future.
Exactly. You have to find the what's in it for me for the other person. Don't say, "I need a raise because I've worked here loyally for 5 years." Say, "I need a raise because I am the only one who can lead this new project that is going to make you look great to the board."
Appeal to their greed, not to their heart.
Sad, but effective.
Let's transition to Section 4. Managing perception and the self. This is all about branding, really. Law 5. Reputation is the cornerstone of power.
Greene puts it very simply. With a strong reputation, you can win without fighting. If your reputation slips, you are attacked on all sides. Your reputation is your shield, and sometimes your sword.
P.T. Barnum is the hero of this law. I love Barnum. What a character.
The ultimate showman. He understood that it didn't matter if people thought he was a fraud, as long as they thought he was an entertaining fraud. He had a competitor named Peale, who was a very serious scientific museum operator.
Peale sounds like a bit of a buzzkill.
He was boringly scientific. He had real skeletons, real historical artifacts. But Barnum built a reputation for humbuggery. He staged fake buffalo hunts in New Jersey. He had the Fiji mermaid, which was literally just a monkey head sewn onto a fishtail.
That's disgusting, but people paid to see it.
They lined up around the block. Barnum attacked Peale by making Peale look stiff, elitist, and boring. Barnum's reputation for fun and mystery completely destroyed Peale's reputation for dry accuracy. Barnum controlled the narrative.
You have to curate your reputation, because if you don't define it for yourself, others will define it for you, which leads perfectly into Law 25, Recreate yourself.
This is one of the most empowering laws in the book, I think. Society constantly tries to put us in a box. You're the quiet one, you're the worker bee, you're just a mom, you're just an accountant, Greene says. Reject that. Be the artist of your own character.
And the example he uses is Aurora Dupin, who is better known as George Sand.
An incredible figure. She was a woman in 19th century France. She was married, had children, and was expected to live a quiet domestic life. That was the script that society handed her, but she found it completely suffocating. She looked at the freedom that men had and said, I want that.
So she didn't just leave her husband. She recreated her entire identity.
She became George Sand. She started dressing in men's clothing, long coats, heavy boots. She smoked these thick cigars in public. She wrote under a male pseudonym.
It wasn't just a disguise, though, right?
Yeah.
It was a power move.
It was a total recreation of the self. By dressing as a man, she gained access to parts of Paris that were completely off-limits to women at the time. She could enter literary circles, political debates. She conversed with the greatest minds of the era, Victor Hugo, Chopin, as an equal.
She created a character that was larger than life.
And because she committed to the role so fully, people accepted it. She gained the freedom and the power that was usually reserved only for men by curating this dramatic new identity. She refused to be what she was born as.
Yeah, if you recreate yourself that successfully, it might attract followers. Which brings us to Law 27. Create a cult-like following.
This one touches on a deep human need. People have a desperate desire to believe in something. We want to be part of a cause, something bigger than ourselves. Greene says if you can tap into that, you can wield immense power.
But the formula he gives is a bit terrifying, he says. Keep it vague, keep it simple, and emphasize enthusiasm over logic and rationality.
Look at the story of Dr. Weissleiter, the moon doctor of Berlin. This was in the late 19th century. He was essentially a con man operating out of a beer hall. He claimed he could cure any illness by exposing people to the rays of the moon.
It sounds completely ridiculous. Stand in the moonlight and your gout will go away.
Rationally, it's absurd, but he didn't appeal to rationality. He created theater. He created rituals. He had people wait in line for hours, building anticipation. He would only see them at certain times of the month. He spoke in these mystical, vague terms about lunar energy and cosmic flows.
And it worked. People bought it.
People claimed they were cured. The belief he generated was so powerful that the placebo effect kicked in. He had thousands of followers. He became wealthy and powerful just by selling a vague, undefined hope.
There's also the story of Francesco Giuseppe Borri.
Borri was a gambler and an alchemist who completely reinvented himself as a prophet. He claimed to have visions of the Archangel Michael. He told people that a new era was coming. He never explained the details, just that it would be glorious and they would be the chosen ones.
And he asked for money, I assume?
Always. He demanded sacrifices. He told people that to be part of this new kingdom, they had to give up their worldly goods, to him, of course, for safekeeping. And people did it because he offered them meaning in a chaotic world.
The key takeaway here seems to be that people will forgive a lot of nonsense if you give them a cause to believe in and some rituals to perform.
Exactly. Intellect is hard work. Belief is comforting. If you offer a vague but promising belief system, you can bypass the critical thinking part of the brain entirely.
All right, we are in the home stretch now. Section 5, strategy, timing, and the end game. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end.
This is so important. Most people plan to the beginning. They plan the launch, the start of the war, the first move. They get excited by the action. Greene warns that this is fatal.
The example he uses is the Athenians attacking Sicily.
A classic disaster from ancient history. The Athenians were the dominant power in Greece. They were hyped up. They wanted more glory, more empire. They launched this massive fleet to attack the island of Sicily.
Did they have a clear plan for what happened after they landed?
Not really. They had enthusiasm. They thought, we are Athens, we will crush them. But they didn't anticipate the level of resistance. They didn't have a clear exit strategy. They got bogged down in a long, brutal siege.
And they completely destroyed them.
Total destruction of their fleet and their army. Thousands dead. It broke the back of Athenian power forever. All because they let emotion and ambition push them into action without visualizing the end game.
You have to gently guide fortune, as he says.
You must anticipate the obstacles. If you don't know where the finish line is, you'll just keep running until you collapse.
And sometimes even when you win, you lose. Which is Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for.
The paradox of victory. Success is intoxicating. When you win, you feel invincible. You think, why stop now? I can take more.
Cyrus the Great. This might be the goriest story in the entire book.
It is extremely graphic. Cyrus the Great created the Persian Empire. He was a military genius. He was unstoppable for decades, but he got arrogant. He decided to attack the Massagetae, a tribe led by the fierce Queen Tomyris.
He didn't really need to attack them, did he?
No, his empire was huge. He had enough, but he wanted more. He marched deep into her territory, far past where his supply lines were safe. He totally underestimated her. He thought, I am Cyrus the Great. I cannot lose.
And he lost.
He was killed in battle, and Queen Tomyris was so furious at his arrogance and his bloodlust that after the battle, she had her soldiers find his body. She cut off his head. She took a wineskin, a leather bag, and filled it with human blood.
Oh my God.
And she shoved his severed head into the bag of blood and shouted, "You thirsted for blood, now drink your fill."
That is a very literal and metaphorical lesson.
It's an image that sticks with you. The lesson is simple. Strategy requires a brake pedal. When you achieve your goal, stop. Consolidate your winnings. Don't let the momentum of success push you off a cliff.
Finally, we have Law 48. Assume formlessness. This feels like the ultimate Zen law of power.
It really is the capstone to the whole book. If you have a rigid plan, a rigid shape, you can be attacked. Your enemy knows where you are and what you are doing.
Be like water, as Bruce Lee said.
Exactly. Greene contrasts the Spartan general Pausanias with the ideal strategist. Pausanias was rigid, he was arrogant, he did things the Spartan way heavy armor, phalanx formation, regardless of the situation. He became predictable.
And predictable means dead.
Eventually, yes. You compare that to Mao, again, or any guerrilla fighters. They don't have a fixed formation. They move, they adapt, they retreat when you attack, they attack when you retreat.
They are formless.
If you are formless, you cannot be hit. In business, this means being adaptable to the market. If you say, this is who we are as a company, we never change, you will eventually be destroyed by a competitor who is more fluid, more digital, more agile.
So formlessness is the ultimate defense and the ultimate offense.
It is. It's the refusal to be a fixed target.
Wow. Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground. We've gone from court intrigue in France to military strategy in China to cult leaders in Berlin. So what does this all mean? How do we synthesize this?
I think if you strip away all the history and the evil reputation of the book, The 48 Laws of Power is essentially a book about emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence. That sounds nice. And this book is definitely not nice.
Well, it's emotional intelligence stripped of all morality. But look at the core theme that runs through almost every single law. Self-control. It's about mastering your own emotion.
Right. Fouquet failed because of his insecurity and his need for validation. Coriolanus failed because of his pride. Cyrus failed because of his arrogance. The Poggios failed because they foolishly relied on gratitude.
Exactly. The person who wins the power game is not necessarily the smartest or the richest. It is the person who can step back, detach from the emotion of the moment, and make a cold, calculated move. It's about not reacting. It's about acting with purpose.
And that brings us right back to the non-players at the beginning.
And that's the provocative thought we want to leave you with. Ask yourself, are you one of those people who thinks they can opt out? Do you think, I'm just going to do my job and be nice and all this tower stuff doesn't matter?
Because according to Greene, that is a dangerous fantasy.
By refusing to play, you are simply handing power to those who do. You are making yourself a pawn in someone else's game. You don't have to be ruthless, but you have to be aware. You have to see the strings.
That is a lot to think about. Maybe I'll try saying less than necessary for the rest of the day. See what happens.
Good luck with that.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the 48 Laws of Power. Remember to subscribe to the Strategy Sync YouTube channel for more deep dives into these massive books. We'll see you in the next one.
Stay formless.